What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracingonline.com, and today we're going to talk about Coca-Cola 600 and make some DFS lineups. Well, we got somewhat of a normal weekend in. Practice on Friday, and then qualifying Saturday morning. No final practice or anything, just one practice session and then impound after qualifying, but it's still something to look at, still data to look at. Austin Dillon, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, top three in practice on Friday. Eric Jones put up a fast lap early, but I wouldn't read too much into that. And really, you can't read a ton into these lap times, I don't think. I'm more worried about long run speed. You have to be more worried about long run speed at these mile-and-a-half tracks. Speaking of which, so Charlotte is mile-and-a-half low-wear racetrack. Run the 550 horsepower package. So ran it this year at Atlanta, Homestead, Las Vegas, Kansas. Most comparable tracks there are Las Vegas and Kansas, so we can look back on those races. We'll also look back at Atlanta and Homestead. This package was also ran at Daytona and Talladega and the road courses, but we're not going to include that in looking at comparable data here for this season. For Sunday's race at Charlotte, there's really no comparison there. So yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be looking into. Final practice. So Kyle Larson had the best 10 lap average by about a half mile an hour over everybody else. Byron was second. Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Suarez right up there. Kyle Busch looked really good to me. Just by the eye test and looking at his lap times, I thought they continued to get that car better as the session went on. So something you like to see. In terms of 15 lap average, tops on that was William Byron, then Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Reddick up there again, as well as Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Truex, Kurt Busch. Thank you to iFantasyRace.com for posting this. I don't know if any of you, if you saw my other video this weekend, you know how much I hate NASCAR.com and how it doesn't work half the time. But yeah, so you have to do crap like this to just be able to look at numbers. Starting lineup. So we had qualifying Saturday morning. The reason I emphasize that is we're racing in the evening into the night. So, I think there were quite a few teams that had their cars set up for, so you have to remember this is an impound race. They cannot touch the cars after qualifying. So I think several teams had the cars set up for what they expect the race to start like, and that's maybe why they're a little bit slower in qualifying and starting a little further back. But we got Kyle Larson on the pole, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. second, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Kevin Harvick rounding out the top five. Notables, a little further back, Truex in eighth, Ryan Blaney starting 12th, Keselowski 13th, Hamlin 14th, Logano 16th, Kyle Busch 20th. Way back, we got Eric Almirola starting 31st. Kind of a surprise was the Roush Fenway cars. They've been pretty good on the mile-and-a-halfs this year and the 550 horsepower package. Got Newman starting 25th, Buescher starting 27th. As slow as those guys were, I do think that they had their car set up more for what they expect the race to start like. So that's kind of where I personally think that they were at. Algorithm predicted finishing order. Of course, it's got Kyle Larson by a good margin over everybody else. And then it's, you could throw a blanket on the next six, really. Keselowski, Truex, Elliott, Hamlin, Byron, and Kyle Busch. All right there within 1.5, basically on the power index. So all super close. Could all end up in the top five and possibly even stealing a win. But the algorithm definitely likes Kyle Larson to win this race, and it's no surprise when we actually look into the data as to why. A few notables. I think it has Ryan Blaney a little bit undervalued. I did notice Michael McDowell projected to finish 21st. That's a little bit surprising, but not super surprising once you actually dig into how he's done in this package, how he's done at Charlotte, and mile-and-a-halfs really in general. It's not too surprising. I wrote about both of those guys in the article, so if you check out those rankings, be sure to look at that and see why. Getting into DraftKings projections. So actually, let's go here first. So Charlotte, last 2 years, we had 2 races here in 2020. There was the Coke 600, and then they turned around and raced again a couple days later during the week with the inverted field. Alex Bowman led most of the laps. There was that late caution. Chase Elliott should have won. Chase Elliott didn't win because Alan Gustafson decided to pit. And then Alex Bowman, I'm pretty sure, just gave up to try to get better track position for the next race and finished 19th. But he did lead the most laps in that race. But over the last 3 races, average running position, Chase Elliott, the best at 7.0, Martin Truex Jr. 7.3, Ryan Blaney 8.1, Alex Bowman 8.2, Joey Logano 8.6, and William Byron at 9.2. Looking at fastest laps over those races, of course, Truex, number 1, 147, Alex Bowman. All 3 of the lap leaders get fastest laps. Chase Elliott, 87. We got Kyle Busch, which is noteworthy because, they've had their struggles over the last 2 years. So the fact that he was able to put up 65 fastest laps is definitely noteworthy, as is Brad Keselowski at 65. He typically doesn't put up a ton of fastest laps. As I always say, I like to look at the fastest lap to lap led ratio. If there's more fastest laps than laps led, especially at a low wear track, it tells me that that car was better than they were running in a way, if that makes sense. So like Hamlin and Blaney here. So Blaney has 43 fastest laps to 4 laps led. He could have easily, if he was leading, put up significantly more numbers or better numbers in both those categories. Same with Denny Hamlin, 53 fastest laps, only 21 laps led. You see the ratio here for like Truex, Bowman, Chase Elliott. All these guys up here have more laps led than fastest laps. So just something I keep an eye on. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. Now looking at the 550 horsepower package this year. So this is Las Vegas, Kansas, Homestead, and Atlanta. It's hard to combine Homestead and Atlanta with these low wear tracks in my brain, but I understand why it makes sense. There's some speed overlay, but really, the races just play out different. The fastest laps play out different. So I like to isolate low wear, but when we're this early in the season, when we only have 2 races, we only have Kansas, we only have Las Vegas, it's super hard to put, just put all those eggs in that basket of 2 races. So that's why I'm kind of looking at all of this when looking at 2021 data right now and looking at it all as a whole to kind of get a full picture. So average running position with the 550 intermediate horsepower package, Kyle Larson just blows everybody else out of the water. Average running position of 3.1 over 4 races. William Byron, average running is 6.9. Truex and Hamlin right there at 7.7. Ryan Blaney at 8.4. Kyle Busch 9.0. Fastest laps, Larson, again, 246. Next highest is Byron at 86. Then Keselowski at 81. Blaney has 61. And then Chris Buescher with 50. I think a lot of those were at Homestead, if I remember right. Laps led, Kyle Larson, 509 laps led in the 4 races with this package. Next best is Keselowski with 146, and then William Byron with 129. Now looking at just the low wear tracks from this season. So this is just Las Vegas and Kansas so far. Average running position, surprise, surprise, Kyle Larson, average running position of 3.3. Got Keselowski up there at 4.2, Denny Hamlin 6.3, Ryan Blaney 6.9, Kyle Busch 7.7. A little bit surprising, Martin Truex Jr. 8.1, but he does have an average finish of 6.0, at this racetrack. Another surprising thing right here, though. 8 fastest laps in those 2 races, 6 laps led. Looking at the full 550 package, 41 fastest laps and 43 laps led. Not terrible numbers when you look at those 4 total races, but still nowhere near normal Martin Truex Jr. numbers. So just something to keep an eye on and remember this week. It doesn't seem like that team is performing as well on the intermediates this year for whatever reason. Fastest laps wise, Kyle Larson 124, Keselowski and Byron at 48, the next two, and then Denny Hamlin 37, Ryan Blaney 32, and Kyle Busch 31. Laps led, Kyle Larson 235 laps led in the two low-wear track races. Then we got Keselowski at 99, Denny Hamlin 54, and then, everybody else. It's kind of just sprinkled around with laps led there. Going into, so we'll pull up DraftKings projections real quick. Of course, Kyle Larson, everybody's going to have him, and he should be the highest scoring driver. We'll get into strategy with him in a little bit. Whether you take the road of taking him or not, but highest projected at 97. Got Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin right there behind him, both projected at 81 points. Keselowski 72, Truex, Elliott, Blaney, and then Byron, who just keeps getting good finish after good finish. So yeah, let's get into, try to make this a little bit quicker since we're going straight from, we don't have as much time. Definitely not as little time as last week at Circuit of the Americas, but not as much time as a normal race weekend as far as when my videos normally go up. So according to my projections, the top lineup this week is going to be Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, and Michael McDowell. I really like this lineup. I love, so basically what you're banking on here, and I put this in the article, is you're banking on Kyle Larson to do what Kyle Larson does, and that's dominate this race for at least half of it. And then you're hoping and needing Kyle Busch and Keselowski to do what they do and get there at the end, score top fives. Chris Buescher, I really like Chris Buescher this week. I think he has top 10 potential, actually. I'm going to bet him to finish top 10. Definitely teens potential, though. I think I wrote him up as a cash play, if I remember right. So my tournament write-ups in DraftKings are Ryan Blaney, Matt DiBenedetto, Corey LaJoie, and then cash drivers Larson, Buescher, and Newman. So love Chris Buescher. Ryan Preece, he's just, you need him to not wreck is what you need, and he should be around a 22nd place car. And Michael McDowell, my algorithm loves Michael McDowell, as I said. I think he has teens potential, and $5,800, it just makes sense. You could jump here. There's a lot you can do with these top three drivers if you want to use that base core or that base bottom core, I guess, of Buescher, Preece, McDowell. You could come here and take all. Well, one, you could go off of Kyle Busch and get Chase Elliott. I don't love going first and third, but definitely not a pivot, but something else to do. You jump down and grab Bowman. That leaves you enough to grab Hamlin. Go Larson, Bowman, Hamlin, or Larson, Bowman, Kyle Busch. Bowman's an interesting one. So low wear tracks this year, Bowman, 15 fastest laps. See, I don't love it. I wrote up Blaney because when you look up, well, we'll get to that when we go through driver by driver. If you don't want Bowman, jump down to Blaney, and then you can go Truex. Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex, or Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Keselowski. There's tons of great options this week with qualifying. Lots of ways to go with lineups. It's going to be really fun, I think, to make lineups for Sunday's very long race at Charlotte, 600 miles, 400 laps. But yeah, let's just go down through these drivers real quick. Kyle Larson starting on the pole. I don't need to say anything about him. Unless he blows up lap one, he should lead significant amount of laps, get significant fastest laps. I love being contrarian. That's how I've won a lot of money in DFS. But I won't even be contrarian on Kyle Larson this week. Maybe in like a $50 single entry or something, not take him, but no. As far as I look at it, eat that chalk and differentiate yourself somewhere else. Martin Truex Jr., my projections don't like him at all by any means, especially for what he's done at this track. I mean, they kind of like him, projecting him 67 points. As I pointed out before, I'm not liking the numbers out of this 19 car with this package. 41 fastest laps, 43 laps led, and that's in the 4 races total. You look at just low wear, and Truex has 8 fastest laps and 6 laps led. I get he has a good history at Charlotte. I could be completely wrong, but I don't mind not having much exposure to Truex at all. And even look lately, like he's just not doing it. Denny Hamlin, I really like Denny Hamlin. I think he can win this race. I'll probably be betting him. I think he's at 12-1, 10-1 or 12-1. I'll probably put a little bit of money on that. He's very solid at this racetrack. He's, good in this 550 package. I don't expect him to put up a huge score, but starting 14th, he definitely has that place differential to get it done, especially if he gets up there and leads laps. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate down to Kyle Busch and Keselowski, so Hamlin could end up being the lower owned of those guys. Let me check where my projected ownership has those guys at. So it's got Hamlin at 27%, Kyle Busch at 30%, and Keselowski at 37%. So, yeah. Chase Elliott, I actually, still waiting for Chase to have his breakthrough race. Yes, he won last week. Don't get me started on that. But this could be the race that, this happened a couple times last year where everybody was on one driver because it was the no-brainer pick, and then his teammate came out and had a better car. I could see that happening this week at Charlotte. I could see Larson's team just somehow missing it and Chase Elliott having the best car. I don't know why. If I'm going to pivot off of Larson, I'm probably going to go down to Elliott because I don't expect a ton of people to have Chase Elliott. But you look at, let me pull up the right tab here. You look at his record here at Charlotte, and he should have won this race last year, but first, second, and fourth over the last 3 races here. Second in 2017, led 28 or more laps in the last 3 races. I really like Chase. I should have wrote him up as a tournament play. I kind of regretting that I didn't. If you're watching this video, this serves as evidence that I do like being overweight on Chase Elliott this week. But yeah, it's just his record, this season that we're just not loving, and we're not seeing that old Chase Elliott. But eventually they're going to figure it out, and maybe that win will shift them into, a higher gear here. Next up is Kyle Busch, starting 20th. I really like Kyle Busch this week. My projections do as well. He's the second highest driver projected, second highest ceiling as well. You look at 550 horsepower package this year. He's got an average finish of 4.8, average running position of 9.0. Doesn't have a ton of dominator points, but that team's running better now than they were earlier in the season. I could definitely see them. I could definitely see Kyle Busch, competing for a solid top 5 and getting some dominator points as well. You look at the low wear tracks, Kansas and Las Vegas this year. Kyle Busch is right there with Blaney and Hamlin in terms of fastest laps. So he's got that place differential. He's starting 20th, reasonably priced at $10,200. I do think he's going to be a very popular pick in DraftKings, but definitely a ton of upside there. Kevin Harvick starts 5th. I don't love it. As I've said in previous weeks, until he shows me something, I'm just not. There's no point to take a risk in my mind. Low wear tracks this year. Harvick has 3 fastest laps total. 550 horsepower package, he has 17, and that's including Homestead and Atlanta. like I said, until he shows something, I hate the price, I hate the salary, and I hate that he's starting 5th. Keselowski, I think he's going to be a very popular pick this week. There's no reason why he shouldn't. My algorithm has him projected to finish 2nd. So he's starting 13th, and he's under 10,000, so definite, great value there. He's been pretty solid. He's been better than expected on these low-wear tracks. Typically Penske, especially Keselowski and Logano, typically aren't the guys that put up dominator points. They just get the finishes usually, and then, maybe if they win, they'll come and lead the last 30 laps or something. But in the 2 low-wear tracks this year, 2 low-wear races at 1.5 miles this year, Keselowski has 48 fastest laps and 99 laps led. Average finish of 2.5 and an average running position of 4.2. Overall, on the 550 intermediate package, third most fastest laps, second most laps led. He also has average running position at 9.7. So definitely like Keselowski this week. I will be heavy on him for sure. Alex Bowman starts 7th. I always like Alex Bowman. Every week, every race. He's just disappointed so many times this year. But he did lead, what did he lead in this race last year? He had a very strong car last year. Led 164 of the 405 in last year's Coca-Cola 600. This year in the 550 horsepower package, Bowman, 32 fastest laps, average running position 11.2. Nothing stellar, and that's kind of why I wrote up Blaney instead of Bowman in my article as a tournament play. He's cheaper, plus he starts a little further back. Plus, I like Blaney's consistency of fastest laps. Of course, being cheaper and starting further back, that's gonna push more ownership onto Blaney compared to Bowman. But I do think a lot of people are going to be on Logano as well there at 8,800. So, but first we're going to talk about William Byron. He starts 4th. Definite pivot option, I think. I wouldn't mind being overweight on him. William Byron used to be really bad at low-wear 1.5 mile tracks. He would wreck almost every time. And now that he's got it down to where he's not wrecking anymore, you look at the average running position this year, average running position 8.2 on the low-wear tracks, average finish of 8.5. He's got 48 fastest laps to 25 laps led. We all know what he did at Homestead, so that kind of factors into this 550 horsepower package right here. Byron, the second best average running position at 6.9, 86 fastest laps and 129 laps led in those 4 races in the 550 package. So there's could it be Larson and Byron that dominate? It wouldn't surprise me. Could it be Larson and Elliott? There's a lot of options to go with this week. Ryan Blaney, like I said, I really like Ryan Blaney. Starting 11th. I've always thought that he's not great at night, and that's my one reservation about him. He seems to just not run as well at night. But at the same time, average running position 8.4 in the 550 horsepower package this year, 61 fastest laps, 26 laps led. In the low wear races, Blaney average running position is 6.9, 32 fastest laps. It's just consistency. You look at Charlotte over the last 3 races and Blaney right there with 43 fastest laps. So, definitely like Ryan Blaney. I like his upside. I like his price. It'll be interesting to see what kind of ownership he grabs, because we got Joey Logano and Christopher Bell right underneath him, starting 5 and 6 positions back. So there's could Blaney end up being low owned? Possibly. Could he end up being high owned? Possibly. I'm not 100% sure. My projections have him at about 20% ownership. So take that for what it's worth. Logano starts 16th. I don't love Logano this week. He's all right. Like, I would rather be underweight on him than anything. I think he's about a top 10 car at best. Looking at, Charlotte, he's pretty good at Charlotte. Go to Logano, 6th, 13th, and 2nd over the last 3 races. He's kind of just, he has Logano-esque performances. But you look at the 550 horsepower package this year, 4 races, he has an average running position of 13.7, average finish to 16.5, barely any dominator points. The low wear tracks this year, Logano, again, nothing special, average finish of 13, average running position of 14. So with his very low price, that's a low price for Joey Logano. I think his ownership is going to explode this week and be very high since he's starting 16th. I would rather be underweight on him and pivot to a guy like Bowman, pivot to a guy like Blaney, maybe even a little bit of Byron or even Bell. But Bell should be up there as well in ownership. So Christopher Bell, we know the story about him. How did he do here last year? So he did finish 9th in last year's Coke 600. Not great running position or driver ratings, 75 and 78 in the 2 races. So it's not like he has a 9th place car all race. This year on the low wear tracks, Christopher Bell, average running position 9.9. That's actually pretty good. It's 8th best. 25 fastest laps. I like that. 550 horsepower package, Christopher Bell, average running position of 15.2. It's a little bit worse on the high wear tracks this year for him overall, but definitely a solid option. 8,600 is just, for a guy like Christopher Bell, who I don't see having, a ton of top 5 upside. It's hard to fit him into a lineup, in my opinion, but definitely not an awful idea, especially if you want to fit or, pivot off Logano or something and go with Bell. Kurt Busch starts 12th. We all know the story with Kurt Busch. This guy can't catch a break. If he doesn't have issues, I think he can compete for a top 10. Is he worth $8,400? I would probably go somewhere else. It's just, none of his numbers this year are going to look good. But if you look at the low wear tracks last year, Kurt Busch was about a 10th place car, average running position of 11.9, average finish of 11.8. Just nothing crazy good, and with how that team's running this year, I'm just not seeing it. Tyler Reddick, he actually looked really good in practice, and that team is running very well. 9th, 8th, 12th, 7th, 7th, 20th, 8th, 7th, and that's since the Bristol Dirt Race. I don't mind, Tyler Reddick is probably going to be a guy I overlooked, to be honest. Looking at 2021 data on low wear tracks, average running position of 14.8, average finish of 14.5. 550 horsepower package overall, Reddick, not great, but that, if you remember, that has Atlanta in it, and he scraped the wall and was, down a lap early. So I think he's about a teens car he definitely has top 10 upside. Like if you're entering a bunch of lineups, if you're getting like 20 lineups or more, you definitely need Reddick exposure. But is he jumping out in my head as a great play this week? No, I wouldn't say he is. Cole Custer starting 23rd. Oh, Cole Custer. He was actually pretty good on the 1.5 miles last year. So Custer last year on the low wears, average finish of 15.7, which was 15th best in the series. This year so far, average finish of 24.5, average running position of 24.2. Not a little bit better on the high wears to give his 550 horsepower stats a little bump here at 22.5, average finish of 19.7. He's starting 23rd. The thing about Stewart-Haas this year is everyone except for Harvick really starts out slow, and if Kyle Larson is as fast as we all think he's going to be, he's going to start putting cars down a lap early, and I don't like my DraftKings drivers being in that position before the first stage. Fighting to get on the lead lap and hopefully get a lucky dog in that. So, don't love Cole Custer by any means. Austin Dillon, he starts sixth. He's $7,700. Oops, missed Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola starts 31st. He's got to be an option just for the place differential, but at best, I think he's like a 15th place car. So I'd rather go elsewhere and not take him. I'd rather jump down to Benedetto if I'm going to go in that price range, or if possible, jump up to Reddick or Bell or Logano, depending on how much cap space you have there. But, don't get too caught up in Eric Almirola starting 31st. He's not. The guy has an average finish of almost 25th this year. Like, he's not running well at all, and there's no reason to think that it's going to change this week. Average running position in 22.3 in the 550 horsepower intermediate package this year. Low wear tracks, Almirola even worse. So yeah. Austin Dillon, he starts sixth. He's $7,700. I maybe if I'm doing 150 lineups, maybe a few with him on it. I don't see any upside there. I really don't. Yeah, he could pull off a top 10, but would rather go, to DiBenedetto, who we're going to talk about now. My projections actually really like Matt DiBenedetto. Got him at projected to 41.6 points with an average projected finish of 13th. So just for comparison, I have Austin Dillon projected to finish 12th, and he's only at 28 points. So definitely like DiBenedetto. If you remember back to last year on the low wear 1.5 mile tracks, DiBenedetto was solid. He had the 11th best average running position and the 10th best average finish over those 9 races. This year, he's putting up the exact same numbers, guys. 11.7 average running position, 10.0 average finish. I really like Matt DiBenedetto this weekend. I think he doesn't have dominator upside, but he has finish upside. And if you can fit him into a lineup, get off that Almirola chalk, that Custer Reddick chalk maybe, definite potential there to save some cap room and get off the chalk at the same time. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he starts second, $7,400. No. Even if he does his, all sequence stuff, it's just not. In DraftKings, it doesn't make sense to pick Ricky. Maybe, 150 lineups, you're putting him on some, but he does have 2 top 5s in his last 3 races at Charlotte. He's a good racer here. Like, there's no doubt about it. But starting second is just tough. Like, does not. So my ceiling for Stenhouse is at 40 points. I'm projecting him for 19. Ceiling's about 40. I want to like Stenhouse. I'm not seeing it. Same with Eric Jones. He's had like 1 good race this year. 2. Darlington, he was solid. Circuit of the Americas, he avoided the carnage. Dirt race, he was good. Like, the speed's just not there in this car. I don't trust crappy equipment in a 400 or a 600 mile race. I don't. I'm not. I will not have much Eric Jones this week. Even, I usually enter 150 into the mini max, and I don't know how much Jones I'm gonna have. Probably none. And maybe that'll hurt me, but I'm not seeing enough upside there to even take a risk, honestly, and definitely not in high dollar, which is where I typically play DraftKings. So, Bubba Wallace, he's starting 18th. I want to keep liking Bubba Wallace, but damn, they just aren't performing. Average running position at 22.4, average finish at 23. That's in the 550 horsepower package this year. Very bad in the low wear track so far. Charlotte last year, obviously he wasn't in a very good car. Not very good over the last 2 years. It's just not at 7,000. It's hard for me to take that risk and not just go cheaper, or go up to De Benedetto. Like, I like De Benedetto too much in this price range to really sprinkle in too much Jones or Wallace. Now that I'm like really looking at this, I'm probably going to have a little bit more than none on Jones and Wallace just because I don't like Chastain starting 10th and I don't like Stenhouse starting 2nd. I obviously love Chris Buescher. Daniel Suarez starting 9th. Don't like that even at 6,500. So I'll probably I'll have more than none on Jones and Wallace, but I don't love either of them by any means. So Chastain starting 10th. He's about a teens car. If he was cheaper than 6,900, I'd take the risk, and hope for a top 15 finish. But I don't think he gets it done. As a pivot off of Buescher, I don't know. I don't see Chastain suddenly challenging for a top 10, even though he had a good qualifying effort. You know what I mean? Just not seeing it. Where's he at? Average finish at 17.0 in the 550 horsepower package. Chris Buescher, talked about him, love him. Think he has teens potential. Just if I'm, he's going to be in a ton of my lineups. If he wrecks early or anything, it'll be like Daytona. I was very, very heavy on Buescher in the Daytona 500, and he wrecked early. But you look at how Roush Fenway is running this year. 550 horsepower package. Buescher, average running position at 13.5, average finish at 12th. Low wear tracks this year. Buescher, where's he at? Average running position at 17.5, average finish of 11th. You look back to last year in 2020, Buescher, not as good, but still, top 20 pretty much every week. So starting 27th, top 20 upside, probably teens upside. The only thing I don't like is, if you remember back to Homestead, they were super fast in the early evening and then fell off once the track changed. That's going to happen again this race. So hopefully they got things figured out there. Or that could be a very long race, especially for me when I'm going to be heavy on Buescher. So that's about the only argument I can make against picking Buescher this week. But I've talked about him in pretty much all of my articles and in a lot of places this week. I definitely like Chris Buescher. Daniel Suarez starting 9th. Nope. 750 horsepower package, average running position at 19.3, average finish 17.3. Maybe, if you're doing a ton of entries, maybe have some exposure, but I'm not seeing much upside. He did finish 11th at Kansas. That was the wacky race, though, with that caution, that late caution. I don't see the upside there. Starting 9th. I'd rather go the safe route. I'd rather go Newman or Buescher, or even jump down to Briscoe. Ryan Newman, 25th, wrote him up as a cash play. I think he has teens potential. He's pretty solid here at Charlotte. Newman. No neck Newman. 17th, 16th in 2 of the last 3. Before that with Childress was always solid. I like where Roush Fenway is this year with the 550 horsepower package. So you look at Newman, average running position 18.4, average finish of 13.5. Low wear tracks this year. Newman, not as good, but still, I think he's very underpriced this week, and I don't mind being heavy on Newman. I'm definitely not going to be as heavy on Newman as I am Busher, but I'll have plenty of exposure there. Chase Briscoe, how I'm viewing him this week is like Ross Chastain most weeks. He's starting 21st, and he probably could finish top 20. So I like him for that price. It's all going to depend on, he finished 20th at Kansas. Is Stuart Haas finally going to turn a corner? Like I've said before, this is typically like about the race where teams kind of pick up a little bit. The ones that were behind pick up, and we see a little bit of shift. So, Briscoe, his stats suck this year. Average running position 24.9 in the 550 horsepower intermediate package. On low wear tracks, about the same thing. 24.4 average finish, or average running position, 20th average finish. But I really don't hate him. At $6,200, I think he's a nice pivot off of Newman or even Preece, McDowell. Ryan Preece, I do like. Have him projected for 23 points, so a little bit less than McDowell. But when he doesn't wreck, he's actually pretty solid at low wear tracks. We look back at 2020, and he was awful. Average finish of 29.1, but he wrecked a lot. Average running position 24.2 should tell you, he had a lot of bad luck. We look at this year, 550 horsepower package with Preece, average running position of 24th, average finish of 23rd. If he can get a couple lucky spots, coming up from 28th and finishing 22nd or so, I could definitely see, that $6,000 price tag working out. His record here at Charlotte, 3 starts, the 2 races last year was 22nd and 24th. That's about what I'm expecting this week as well. Michael McDowell, really like him. Love the play of Michael McDowell. My projections really like him as well. Starting 24th, I think he has top 20 upside. He's been good here at Charlotte recently. 25th, 18th, 22nd, 18th, 35th, 19th, 14th. He's been decent here. You look at his stats this year with the 550 horsepower package, average running position of 17.9, average finish of 13.8 over those 4 races. Low wear tracks, pretty similar. Average running position of 19.2, average finish of 15.0. If he can just keep that speed up, McDowell should be a solid pick there at 5,800 in DraftKings. Corey LaJoie is starting 26th. He's $5,600. I do like LaJoie. Actually, I wrote him up as a tournament play. So, yeah, I think that that Spire car has found some speed. They finally stopped braking, and Corey LaJoie's been pretty solid here at Charlotte. With Go Fast, he was 19th, 23rd, and 12th in that car. So, I would not be surprised if Corey LaJoie flirts with the top 20 this weekend, which would obviously be great value for someone priced at $5,600. Moving on, Anthony Alfredo, he starts 29th. He's $5,500. I think he'll finish, typically he's about a 26th place car. He's a safe option, $5,500 if you want, a few guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but almost guaranteed place differential points and maybe a little bit more if there are some wrecks. Alfredo could be your guy. He's not an awful equipment by any means. Now that we're getting into the back markers, I just don't see the way my projections are. It uses the back markers a little bit, if you're making a ton of lineups. I hate putting any of them in my lineups unless it just makes, sense. I think I put Quinn Houff in my Dover lineup that I won some money with, but that was when, you needed the top 2. What was it, like the top 2 highest priced guys or something? But I just don't see that working out at all I don't trust these guys in a 600-mile race at all, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of wrecks. So the only way that works out is if there's a bunch of wrecks. But if you're going to dig down this deep, the obvious play is Justin Haley, priced at $4,800. I have him projected at 13.8 points. I think he's actually going to get a decent amount of ownership this week. And the second highest projected lineup the second optimal lineup according to my projections actually has Justin Haley in it. It goes Larson, Kyle Busch, Hamlin, Buescher, McDowell, and then Justin Haley. With him, you're just hoping, maintain position and don't wreck. Starting 30th, he really has no upside of place differential, but it's about where he finishes, 30th, 28th. Let's look at his stats this year. Justin Haley. Is he in there? Oh, there we go. Average running position of 29.9. Average finish of 28.8. Like, we know what we're getting with him. It's just, I could definitely see it working out, if you put Haley on there and then Larson, and then you have like 2 or 3, or you go like Blaney, Logano, Bowman, and they're all top 5. And then, wow, that fit well. So like if you go Larson, he dominates. Blaney top 5, Logano top 5, Bowman top 5. Buescher does his normal stuff, and then Justin Haley rounds it all out. I could see that lineup working. I could see a lineup like that working. So I definitely think there's opportunity to use Justin Haley this week. If you didn't want to go that route, jump down and grab. Or even if you didn't want to go with Larson. Something like that. You can fit 4 top 5 potential finishers into a lineup this week. And possibly even with, Larson in there, with how these pricing structures are worked out. If you dig deep and go Justin Haley. And obviously, if that works out, Buescher does his thing, or whoever down here that you decide to roll with, whether it's Briscoe or Newman or Priest, McDowell, I hate to say it, but you could put a decent lineup together with McDowell and Justin Haley in it. Larson, Blaney, Keselowski, Bowman, McDowell, Haley. Or Larson, Blaney, Keselowski, Logano. You get it. Yeah. So you can definitely put together some great lineups this week if you're willing to take the risk with Justin Haley. And I'll probably end up doing that whenever there's like a really low, doesn't make sense, low dollar guy that you are able to then make those kind of lineups and fit in, 4 potential top 5 finishers. I'm going to take that chance every week, especially, Justin Haley isn't an awful car. He has no place differential upside, but if he finishes where he starts, that could work out. So looking at FanDuel, just to wrap it up here quick, my top projected lineup is pretty similar to where we're at in DraftKings. So the top projected lineup according to my FanDuel projections is Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, and Ryan Preece. So that's going to wrap it up. Good luck this Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy the race. Have plenty of beer ready because it's going to be a long one, guys. And it's probably not going to be very exciting. But good luck. And next week we have... What do we have next? Is it Sonoma next week? I love road course races. Yeah, Sonoma next week, and then a break a break from normal races for Texas in the All-Star race. So good luck. Remember, Sunday night race. So lineups don't lock till like 6:15 or something, 6:20. So good luck. See ya.